A man crashes through a fuel depot door and slams it shut behind him. Something strikes the metal from the other side hard enough to bend it inward. Blood drips from a shallow puncture on his wrist. Tiny black needles push outward from the wound before retreating beneath the skin. The lights flicker. A scraping noise circles the building, but nothing appears in the windows. Hours earlier, two travelers abandon a failed camping trip after discovering their vehicle equipment has been ruined. They turn toward a remote highway seeking shelter. The road cuts through government-protected desert land. Few people enter the region, and fewer stay after sunset. Several miles away, another pair hurry through the desert after abandoning a disabled vehicle. They are running from more than mechanical trouble. The two groups meet unexpectedly on an empty stretch of road. What begins as a request for help quickly becomes a threat. Valuables are confiscated and communication devices destroyed. The travelers are forced to continue the journey together. A strange carcass lies across the road. The impact shreds a tire and forces everyone outside. While replacing the tire, the armed stranger flinches. Something sharp hidden inside the rubber punctures his finger. Nearby, the carcass twitches despite devastating injuries. Nobody can explain how it is still moving. The body suddenly jerks several feet forward. A gunshot echoes across the desert. Everyone leaves in a hurry. Behind them, thin black spikes continue growing through the discarded tire. The vehicle overheats less than an hour later. The only structure nearby is an aging fuel depot. The station appears empty. No vehicles. No customers. No sign of recent activity. A foul smell drifts from the restroom area. The broad-shouldered woman investigates alone. Inside, she discovers a man fused with hundreds of black spikes. One eye opens. Nobody believes her warning until the figure emerges and begins moving unnaturally fast. Gunfire tears through the station yard. The creature keeps advancing as if pain means nothing. The survivors barricade themselves inside. Outside, something drags itself across the roof. The scratching above them stops without warning. The silence feels more dangerous than the attack. A heavy object lands outside the front entrance. Nobody dares check what it is. Through a narrow gap in the shutters, they finally see it. The infected man has torn pieces from his own body and piled them near the entrance. One detached fragment begins crawling across the concrete by itself. The organism does not require an entire host to move. The realization changes everything. Killing the host may only create more threats. The wounded man secretly unwraps his injured finger. Thin spikes have already reached his knuckle. He covers the infection before anyone notices. Fear keeps him silent. The group searches for another exit. A rear storage door appears promising at first. After removing the hinges, they discover a second reinforced barrier behind it. Their escape route never truly existed. A distant engine approaches from the highway. Relief sweeps through the building. A lone security officer steps from the vehicle and studies the station from afar. The survivors pound on the glass and scream warnings. Their voices never reach outside. The officer mistakes the situation for a hostage standoff and moves closer. A black shape drops from the roof. The attack lasts only seconds. The officer collapses beside the fuel pumps. Something disappears beneath the body. The group watches in horror as the corpse begins moving again. A new host has been created. Hope turns into panic. Rescue has only strengthened the threat. The scientist among them notices something unusual. Every infected body gathers near warm machinery. He starts recording observations. The organism appears drawn to heat more than movement. Before he can explain further, a vent cover crashes from above and something enters the building. A detached cluster of black spikes tumbles from the vent and lands on the floor. It immediately begins searching the room. The group retreats deeper into the station. The fragment follows the warmest target with unnatural precision. A storage freezer offers temporary refuge. They seal themselves inside moments before the fragment reaches the door. Minutes pass. The scratching outside fades until nothing remains. The scientist lowers a thermometer into the cold air and compares it with his body temperature. A theory begins to form. If the organism tracks heat, the freezer may be rendering them nearly invisible. For the first time since arriving, the group believes survival might be possible. That optimism vanishes when cracking sounds echo from the wounded man's arm. The infection has spread far beyond his hand. Thin ridges move beneath the skin toward his shoulder. His secret is exposed. The others realize the threat has been inside the room all along. The scientist argues that removing the infected limb may stop the spread. Nobody knows if the idea will work. The wounded man agrees immediately. He has already seen what happens when the organism reaches the brain. Using improvised tools, they perform the procedure while the freezer door trembles from impacts outside. The severed limb falls to the floor and instantly begins twitching on its own. The group traps it beneath heavy crates. The movement gradually weakens. Hours later, the limb finally stops moving. The infection appears contained. The scientist connects scattered clues from the attack, the corpses, and the freezer. The organism is hunting heat. Warm engines, heated metal, and living bodies all attract it. Cold environments confuse its senses. A risky plan emerges. Someone must cross the compound while artificially lowering their body temperature.